Welcome everyone. My name's Josh Marshall. I'm the General Manager of Crucial Dimensions. I'm based out of Perth, and lovely to have you all here for our for our product preview around the SDI assessment and the SDI platform. This is the first of our webinars on the SDI as licensee in Australia. So yeah, welcome to everyone. I'm joined by Craig Guindon and also Cassie Hard from Crucial Learning, and have had extensive experience across the SDI assessment and SDI platform. So they're going to take you through much of that today, which I'm really excited to share that with you. There's some people on the call. There's some familiar names, and there's people I don't know. So welcome. Just by way of introduction, Crucial Dimensions is the licensee for Crucial Learning, the exclusive licensee for Crucial Learning's training products and assessments throughout Australia and New Zealand. We've been in that role for over 15 years now, and really excited by what we have added with the Strengths Deployment Inventory, or the SDI, and how that's going to enrich a lot of the work that we do around crucial conversations, accountability training in particular, and how that's going to really support building better team relationships, greater safety and performance within organizations. Um, I'm going to finish it there because we've got a lot to cover, and I'm going to hand over to Craig now. So please, we'll do a bit of a brief wrap up at the end of the session. Please, if you've got any questions or you want to engage, just chuck it into the chat, and we'll endeavour to grab that during the webinar. Over to you, Craig.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Really excited to be with you guys today. I'm calling in from Dallas, Texas, and I've been leveraging the SDI here at Crucial Learning, and prior to that with Core Strength for a little over 11 years. And then prior to that, I've got about 22, 23 years experience in the corporate training, talent development space with two other organizations. So excited to be with you guys here today and talk to you further about the SDI assessment, our platform, and how clients leverage it to improve things like team effectiveness, collaboration, conflict resolution. As you'll hear about, we're going to talk about strengthening working relationships. We know how important that is in today's business environment. There's another thing that we're going to talk about around relationship intelligence and making the adjustments to your communication style and approach. So Cassie Hard's with me. I work closely with Cassie. She's been with us. How long, Cassie?
6 years.
6 years, and works with a lot of our clients all over the globe. So if you have questions along the way, just feel free to chat those in, and Cassie and I will both try and monitor those. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the SDI assessment. The SDI assessment's been around for a little over 50 years. It was first developed by Dr. Elias Porter in his work with Carl Rogers out of the University of Chicago, and was influenced by Eric Fromm and others. And originally it was in support of what he termed this relationship awareness theory. In its simplest form, the more I know about what's important to an individual, the more effective I can be in working with that person. We've evolved that thinking over the last few years to what we're referring to as this relationship intelligence that I mentioned before. Okay, providing these insights to make adjustments to your communication style and your approach to strengthen those working relationships, and you'll see how that takes shape. Okay. Over the years, we've administered over 5 million SDI assessments around the globe, as I've mentioned, 50,000 organizations, and is translated into 14 different languages. We do have a train-the-trainer model where we'll certify people to deliver the training and the assessments internally within your organization. And as you can see, here are some really common applications where the SDI gets integrated and leveraged. Here's a quick list of some of the clients that we work closely with around the globe, and then some local Australian-based clients that have used the SDI for quite a few years. So we know the importance of relationships in today's busy world, right? And we know that when relationships are strong, when relationships are healthy, good things happen. People are more productive, they're more engaged, they stick around longer. The challenge we have is people are different, right? And some of those relationships are a challenge. And we know the impact when relationships are not healthy that it has on individuals, turnover, lack of engagement, productivity, and business results. So the key is, how do we strengthen those relationships in a consistent way? Um, and so with relationship intelligence and powered by the SDI and the platform, we can harness these insights to develop and strengthen those leader-led and team relationships. And we do that through the SDI assessment, the training, interactive exercises and activities, and the platform that we're going to spend some time in. And the insights, the ability to listen differently, communicate differently in a way that connects with what's important to individuals that we'll talk about, can show up not just in the platform, but in what we refer to as the flow of work, in our Zoom meetings, in our Teams meetings that we have, and in Outlook. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's look at the SDI. One of the things that makes the SDI assessment very unique is you're taking one assessment, but you're getting 4 views of yourself. It's going to help you understand your motives, what you value, what you care for when things are going well, and then when faced with conflict, and then how those motives impact what you do every day or your use of strengths. Okay. It'll help you. There's 28 unique strengths associated with the SDI. It's going to help you understand your strengths that are most like you, and then strengths that are least like you, the ones that take a little bit more effort and intentionality to use. And then, despite the positive intent, we can overuse those strengths. They can become blind spots for people if not managed appropriately or trigger conflict in other people. Okay. Another way to think about that is this um, buoy, I should say buoy, right? Buoy and anchor. Okay. When you look at a buoy sitting on top of the water, it's relatively easy to see. And that's going to move and it's going to shift based upon situation, the wind, the waves, the environment. Okay. And that's analogous to our use of strengths. We use different strengths in different situations. High pressure situations when we're leading versus being an individual contributor. And we use different strengths at home or at work. Okay. But like the buoy has a unique relationship with the anchor that's below the waterline that's harder for people to see and it doesn't move very much. Our strengths have a relationship with our motives. Those are what we value, what we care for. They're harder for people to see and understand. And those motives, what we value, doesn't change very often. But when we understand this unique relationship between our motives and strengths for ourselves, we understand the unique relationship that these have with others, we can be more intentional, we can be more effective in these relationships. So just a quick overview on the 4 views that we just looked at, okay? The first view is the SDI is going to help you understand your motives when things are going well. Okay, you've got a series of questions. You can allot 10 points for each of those 10 questions, and then it's going to give you a picture of your primary motives. We all have a motive, these 3 primary motives, and that's a care and development for people, process, or performance. But we value those motives differently. That's what makes us unique. So the SDI measures the frequency of those motives and the importance to each one of us. So that dot is going to represent your motives when things are going well, and it could show up anywhere on this SDI triangle. In this example, the primary motive for this individual is that they value and care about people as that primary motive. Doesn't mean that they don't value performance or process, they do, just a little bit less frequently than the development growth for people. Okay. And then the game changes when we're faced with conflict. So um, just quick, if you don't mind, in the chat, when you guys see the word or hear the word conflict, what comes to mind? Just, if you don't mind, chat in your answers real quick. What comes to mind? argument, anger, emotions, opposing views. Absolutely. All of those things. Challenges, tension. Yeah. Something I don't agree with. Absolutely. And so that's frequently what we hear. Our motives and what we value changes when faced with conflict. And what we see is that generally, instead of being a frequency of these motives of people, process, and performance, generally what's important to people is that they want to accommodate. They want to assert and solve the problems quickly, or they want to analyze the situation. So when we understand what's important for us, when we understand what's important to other people when faced with conflict, we can make this conflict more productive. Okay, so the SDI is going to provide you a picture of how our motives change when faced with conflict. Okay, in that first view, the dot represented our motives when things were going well. The arrowhead represents our motives when faced with conflict. And in this example, for this person, that first stage of conflict would be they want to analyze the situation. They want to make sure that they've got a clear picture of what's going on. They may want to give it the time and attention to solve it properly. Different than someone that might really have that first stage of conflict to assert and to solve it really quickly. Let's not let things fester, get swept under the carpet, and get worse. So again, when we understand what's important to people in these two conditions, we can be more intentional in these relationships and our communication to them. So now let's look at this third view that the SDI provides for us, okay? Those first two views really represent the anchor, what's important to us. This view would represent the boy, okay? It's going to look at the strengths that are most like us. So as you complete the SDI assessments, it's going to provide you this portrait of your strengths, and towards the top, those top three lines are going to represent the strengths that are most like you. We'll look at some examples here quickly. Those are strengths that just come natural. You don't think much about them. It's how you show up every day. If we interviewed colleagues that work closely with each of you, they might use similar or these same descriptions. Okay. As you go south on this portrait down towards the bottom, at the bottom, these are going to be strengths that are least like you. Take a little bit more intentionality and effort for you to use these strengths. They don't come as easy. Now, they're not weaknesses by any means, because as you guys have the opportunity to complete the SDI, and Josh or others will go through your results with you, you can look at some of those strengths and say, well, I use those. I can use those occasionally. Okay. They're not weaknesses. And this does distinguish us from other strength-based assessments that might say focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. You're not going to make measurable improvements. But if you think about the constants inside your organizations, change is usually at the top of the list. And then quickly thereafter, it's relationships, interdependent relationships. So what we're teaching organizations is that you really need to get good at this strength-based agility. How do I use the right strength in the right situation, the right strength for the right relationship in this ever-changing world that we're in, that we find ourselves in? And then the fourth view is, despite the positive intent, we can all overuse these strengths. We can overuse them in terms of frequency or duration or intensity. Okay. So the SDI will show you at the top the strengths that you're most likely to overuse and the implications it might have on others, how others might perceive that, how it could be conflict triggers for them. Okay. And down towards the bottom, those would be strengths that you're least likely to overuse. Okay. And what happens, what we discover in the workshops, the exercises, the activities, is that oftentimes those strengths, those overdone strengths that we're least likely to overuse, someone might be more likely to overuse those, are those conflict triggers for us. Okay, so when we understand the positive intent they have, using those through dialogue, we can be more understanding and appreciative. And also, when others understand how it triggers us and why, they can develop that strength-based agility to not overuse those strengths as frequently. Okay? So what we're going to do now is take a look at our SDI platform. We've been investing in the SDI platform for a number of years. It's one thing to take an assessment. It's another to have visibility to remind people of ways in which we can engage with them, listen differently, to build this relationship into our day-to-day flow of work. So I'm going to jump over here quickly to our platform, and we'll review how this can really sustain itself. Okay. Let me know when. Can you guys see my screen okay, Cassie? All right. So this is our platform now. Um, the platform is built with what we refer to as privacy by design, meaning each individual owns their results, just like they own their personality. Okay. And then there's settings that individuals can give permission to connect with other people, or at the organization, you can turn on the settings so that it's open sharing for everybody. Okay. So we've got Josh's account here, and we've got some demo characters. When people complete the SDI assessment, they can go to their homepage and they'll be able to look through and see other employees that maybe had completed the SDI assessment. They can select their favorites, which would be not their favorite people, but people that they frequently meet with, and have them on that homepage. In the Discover functionality, this is where individuals can go through their own personalized debrief of their results. Okay. You'll see the 4 views here that we just reviewed: motives, conflict, strengths, and overdone. These videos are 2, 3 minutes in length, bite-sized videos. And then as you go through, it'll help you understand your results as you go through your workshops, exercises, and activities. Um, your facilitators can walk you through this and you can validate your results here.
Craig, am I the only one that I'm not seeing the platform? Just want to double check
Yeah.
that.
It just says SDI Platform. It's that slide.
Yeah, it's not showing the actual platform, Craig.
Oh, is it? I
No.
apologize, guys. Give me
So,
one second. Let's try this share again. Thanks for telling me that. Any better?
yeah, we've got it now. Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. So, again, here under Discover is where you can look at your own personal results for your motives when things are going well. Um, you can validate these statement banks, which really give you an opportunity to endorse those when things are what you're doing, your feelings and ideals, and your conflict triggers. And then these are those videos that I was pointing out and mentioning that you just couldn't see. Same with conflict. Okay, you can go through to better understand your results for your motives when things are not going so well, and then validate these statements. Okay, you can go through strengths and overdone. If you're having a one-on-one conversation with individuals, maybe it's your weekly one-on-one, or you've got 2 or 3 people you might be meeting with, you can go to the compare functionality. And in here, you can see these demo characters. We've got Cassie and Josh in here. So if I go to compare, okay, I can look at our motives, and let's pull in a couple of other people here. Pull in Eric. So if I've got meetings with Eric and Chloe and Amy here, I can see what's important to them. I can see that really Amy really cares about and values the growth and development of people. Okay. Um, Whereas Chloe, her primary motives is really driven around getting things done, taking action, that performance drive for her. Whereas Eric really values that process, that logic, that reason. Okay. You can see further on their results down here. Again, it's that primary motive for Eric of what's most important, is that logical order process. He does care about people and growth and development. He does care about performance, just not as frequent as trying to understand the why or strategy of why we might be doing things. Okay. And what this allows me to do is have this visibility here, and then I can go to these insights and further understand how I can tailor my listening, my speaking, showing appreciation, knowing what's important to individuals. Okay. These endorsements are really driven by the validation statements and people endorsing these. So if you do have people on your team that have similar motives, it's going to personalize it a little bit more for each one of those individuals. Okay. Um, Here I can also click in and I can get the communication tips to improve my meetings, my messages, my conversations. So if I click in here on messages, it's going to give me quick tips to tailor my messaging, knowing what's important to Amy. Okay, sample subject lines, content is going to connect to her blue people motive or drive. Ask about their feelings and reactions. Openly express your feelings or concerns. Use a personal or sincere tone. A little bit different than how I might tailor that language to Chloe's red performance drive. Put the bottom line up front, right? Maybe if I'm writing an email, I'm going to keep it to 3 or 4 bullet points, not 3 or 4 paragraphs, because I'm going to lose her, right? So these communication tips to improve meetings, messages, conversations, and things to avoid, knowing what's important. I can also go to when things aren't going well, and I can look at what's important to each of these individuals when faced with conflict. Okay. And so I can see here the arrowhead again represents that first stage of conflict. Okay. When we're in the workshops, we talk a lot about opposition versus conflict. Opposition's healthy, generates creativity and innovation. But when things cross the line, they violate our values or our motives, that's when it can trigger conflict with people. Okay. And so knowing what's important, we all experience conflict in stages. And that first stage, it's self, problem, and others. If we can't resolve conflict and we go to stage 2, the other person's perspective isn't as clear as it once was. We get more focused on the problem and the impact on us. And then in the third stage, which you may not see that often in the professional workplace, but if you can't resolve it, the problem and the other person's perspective goes out of focus, and it's really focused on self-worth and the impact on us. So what we target here is how can we resolve conflict in those first stages and get back to when conditions are working well. So in this first stage for Amy, it's giving an example here where what's important to her is to analyze the situation, give enough time and space to ensure that we understand, that Amy understands what's going on. Um, and her last stage, stage 3, is to assert. So she's going to spend a lot of her time trying to analyze what's going on. How did we get here? What's the impact on people? Okay. And to, accommodate, keep relationships strong, she may try and solve those issues there. But if she does go to that third stage of assertiveness, it might be pretty unhealthy and unpleasant for her and unpleasant for others. What's different here for Chloe in that first stage of assert is that she really views assertive as being very productive. It's very positive. She's trying to address things, bring things up right away to get them resolved, whereas other people might be feeling, gosh, I don't know as though I'd bring that up right now in this environment. Okay. So understanding what's important to individuals allows us to tailor our communication style and approach to give people the time and space or conversations to work through those issues more productively. Okay.
Craig, you'd probably say this is really the essence of of why Crucial Learning went down this approach with SDI, with the work that they do with work we do with our training and embedding, these skills, but having enriching that with this information.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're going to engage in some of those conversations and how someone might react and what's important to them,
Yeah,
right? You can engage in that shared pool of meaning
that's right.
a little bit differently, right?
Yeah,
And this really helps leaders or team members when we're engaging in conversations really understand and appreciate where people are coming from. Okay, it allows the leader to, in this example, give Amy a little bit more time and space. Maybe Chloe is going to bring some things up in the meeting because she wants to resolve it quickly, but that's not necessarily fair to someone that wants to analyze the facts and the history and how we got here. So it really provides the insights to allow those leaders or team members to understand and tailor how we're going to work through those situations. So now if we look at the strength portrait, okay, the strength portrait allows us to look at all 28 strengths here for these 3 team members here in comparison to my strengths. So at the top, there's 28 unique strengths. So 1 through 6 are going to be those top strengths that are relatively easy for these individuals to bring to work every day. And then as we move a little bit south, further down this portrait, you're going to see some secondary strengths. And then at the bottom are going to be the strengths that are least like that person. Takes a little bit more effort and intentionality for people to use. So I can look at this view here and know that if I'm engaging with Chloe and I really need her to be a mentor and support a new person, maybe some of those blue strengths down here aren't going to be easy for her to adopt and leverage. So it provides me great insights to provide awareness, coaching, support, provide compliments to her when she is using the right strengths in those situations. I can click through here to get different views of each individual. We'll look at a team composite here in just a minute. I also can, in those tips, when things are not going well, how I can adjust my communication style and approach as we talked about. Okay. So if I go here to teams, what I can do is I can create a team for anyone that's completed the SDI assessment. So a little bit earlier today, I created this demo team and I added some individuals here, and it provides me this view for my team. So if I'm leading a team in a virtual world, it's a great way to have this visible to remind each of us what's important to each one of us. And as we look at this portrait here, we've got a pretty equal distribution, right? One area that might be lacking is this blue and this blue-green area, which is that primary motive of growth development for people to develop some of that self-sufficiency in others, okay? We've got on this team people that are really driven around performance and driving for performance for the betterment of other people, this red-blue area here, okay? You might be wondering about this middle area. We call this the hub. If your results end up in the hub, generally what we see is what's important to individuals. They're trying to satisfy those 3 primary motives of people, process, and performance pretty equally. And generally people that have that hub motivational value system really appreciate flexibility, collaboration, getting input from other people because they're trying to satisfy those motives of pretty equal weight. Okay. So you can look at it with your dots. You can look at as your team grows, your percentages. And in the conflict piece, again, understanding if we've got an important topic that is a little bit controversial and we need to make progress and make some decisions on Thursday, as an example, I can be aware of what is important to each people, of each individual on the team, right? In this example here, we've got, Victoria and Chloe that first stage of conflict is to assert. So they may bring things up that are a little bit controversial because they want to solve it quickly, maybe to get back to work because that performance drive is so important to them. But we've got other people that really want to analyze that situation. So perhaps there's some things that I can take ownership for to get them information and background in advance so that they come best prepared to make some decisions in that meeting on Thursday. Cassie or Josh, anything you guys would add?
Just Craig, Or Craig, the application of the team side of things, so obviously the conversations we're having now with our clients in Australia is they're seeing a lot of value in this around just looking at team composition and looking at is the team optimized, or general team performance, and looking at this going, if we've got a high proportion of high red with little around people and I guess process component. That's a lot of the conversations I'm having at the moment, and I know Jeff is as well. How are you seeing this being used within other organizations over the time that you've applied this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question. So the SDI is not a predictor of success, right? Just because someone's motivated and driven by performance doesn't mean they're always going to hit their targets, right? They're driven by that, but um, perhaps maybe they lack on sustainability tools or developing a process so that results can be sustained. But it gives you a good indication of where people are coming from so that you can get a good balance on your team, right? And in this example here, right, as we look at what's important to people, we don't necessarily have a lot of people that have that blue people drive or that blue green, which is really about that self-sustainability, right? And if that's important to us, what can we do to be mindful and appreciative that as we move forward as a team, how can we develop some systems, some processes to develop that self-sufficiency, making more awareness to that. Another good example is that oftentimes, as I mentioned, people that have, you guys have it here too, Cassie and yourself, Josh, right? Josh, you're a hub, and Cassie is red blue, but she's really close to that hub, right? So Cassie really wants to help others achieve what's possible. She does it in a very collaborative, flexible manner. And for you, Josh, you're leaning towards that red and red blue also. And because you're centered in that hub, that flexibility, collaboration, maybe getting input from other people is also important to you. Okay. Um, Being aware of that is important. One of the challenges with people that have that hub motivational value system is we might be slower to make decisions, right? Because we're looking for, well, maybe best idea wins. Have we gotten as much input from everybody? Maybe there's one more idea out there, right? So you can be more aware of the intentionality, but some of the challenges that might come with it, right? So
And I like looking at the strengths portrait for that too, Craig, to answer this question. Is that where you're going?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look here, this is team of 7 that we put here. It provides the composite view of this team. So in those top 3 lines, those top 6 strengths, these are the strengths that this team is going to bring to work every day pretty easily, not thinking much about it. Okay. So the caring, the helpful, fair, inclusive, self-confident, and open to change. Right. Um, but maybe we're working on a new policy or some new software, and it's important for people's safety reasons that everyone adhere to the new policies. And if we need this team to be a little bit more forceful or persuasive, we've got visibility that those strengths might not come up as natural and easy for this team. Right? So making some awareness, providing some visibility, and providing some positive compliments when people are using the right strengths for those situations. Okay.
Is there any questions that anyone's got to put in the chat? Feel free to.
Absolutely.
We'll keep going, Craig. That's good.
Okay, I'm just reading that. So the last part here, this platform, when you get certified, really provides some great insights to provide the exercises and activities. This strengths distribution, we refer to this as how I see it. So if a team is going through a lot of change, right? You can pull any one of these strengths and look at, let's see, maybe open to change is a strength that is important for your organization to be leveraging. It's going to plot where the team members have that strength in their portrait. So we know in this example, Lance, Cassie, and Victoria have that as one of their top strengths. But for Mark on the team, that's going to take a little bit more effort and intentionality for him to use that strength. Okay. And you can pull any one of these competitive, and it's going to show you the exercises and activities allow people to share what's important to them, how do they use that strength to drive results, and why for some people that's a little bit more of a challenge. And then that last part, which helps support the fourth view that we spoke about, is the overdone strengths. Okay. And so what you're looking at here is the team composite of this overdone strengths. Okay. And what's communicated here is looking at the top, again, the top 6 strengths that this team might tend to overuse if they're going to overuse them, and how people might view those. Okay. So if you look at, obsessed, it could be overusing analytical. Okay. Or that self-confidence done too often with too much duration or intensity could come across as being arrogant. Okay. And down towards the bottom here, these are the strengths that this team is least likely to overuse. Okay. They're never going to be so devoted that it would come across as being subservient, or looking at, intrusive. They're not going to be so sociable, overly sociable, comes across as being intrusive for people. Okay. So this is the portrait. It does protect the anonymity. So if you wanted to look at, a smaller group of individuals there, you could. You just have to pick at least 3 people. This overdone strength portrait also is available for each person to go through, and is a great way when you're onboarding people, when you're struggling with relationships, how overdoing certain strengths might get in the way of those productive relationships, or could be those conflict triggers for others. Okay. Let me just see. Cassie, you're getting some of these questions, or any that we can answer? Okay. So that looks at.
This is a good one, Craig, actually, and you kind of already spoke to it a little bit, but I think it needs some more attention. So is this able to help with reviewing your team at different levels to see if you have the right traits, or are you more looking for a mix of traits in all levels? So would you look for different focus from management compared to frontline staff, for example?
Yeah, I think you would want to look at the motives. Again, it's not going to predict the success that people would have, but it's going to help you better interpret, as people are growing in their development, what's important to them, what they value, and getting to know people at that deeper inner intrinsic level, right?
Yeah, and so if you're looking at a team similar to this one, where you have the triangle, you have the one blue person that's like out there and further away from everyone else. If you're the leader of that team, you might want to check in with them more, because they might feel like nobody lives in their same world. The whole purpose of this is to be relationally intelligent. You're building your relationship intelligence with this information. So it isn't so important that you're covering all of the regions and you have a variety of the strengths available, because we all have this whole strengths portrait available to us. We're just more comfortable with the ones at the top. The ones in the middle, we can bring if we want, like we'd probably do often. And the ones at the very bottom, those bottom 3, we really do not like. They haven't worked for us in our life, just typically speaking. And so if you're looking at a team of people side by side and you're seeing, what their strengths are, and you notice there's a big discrepancy between some of the members, that isn't necessarily good or bad. It's just awareness. It's saying, okay, so this person's caring and this other person is flexible, and neither of them have the same things at the top and the bottom. They might not understand each other if also their motives are different, and we can work with that. So this is giving you a way to work with lots of different personality types and behaviors, and ultimately create better outcomes together.
I think it's a really good point, Cassie, because I've done Hogan's, I've done Gallups, I've done DISC, I've done many different personality tests and different, kind of review assessments. What I've found with this, and it's been incredibly helpful for our own organization, and how our team operates together, because I have an awareness now of those different motives and when they show up and when things are going awry. I have a better understanding of where it's going to lead, so that I can lean into that dialogue or that conversation in a way that I probably wasn't aware of or would have done previously. And I've reflected a lot on this and other organizations I worked in, going, if I'd had this, I think it could have helped in a multitude of different ways in terms of the direction of certain projects or different initiatives. So that's the comparison, and the team piece is the bit that I love. I just think it's an incredible feature in what we do. So
It can be great for coaching efforts, development. I think that was part of the question there too. If I go back to this comparison, look at strengths, and then I go to the portrait, Chloe here, if we do need her to be a little bit more supportive and trusting, and adaptable, we're not asking Chloe to change who she is, right? But that strength-based agility, when you click on this, is it easier for Chloe, who's really driven around that red performance drive, to use this supportive strength so others can help them achieve their goals? Or in order for others to achieve what's best that they can, or be trusting so others will continue to perform, right? So this provides some good insights for those development conversations or those coaching conversations as well, when you can connect your strengths to what's important to each individual.
But I also think it's important, maybe everyone doesn't realize. So when you complete the assessment, you get access to the Discover tab, Compare tab, and the Teams tab as part of your assessment for the first 12 months. Following that, you get access to all the Discover, the information about yourself, and then there's the option to continue to have that Compare and Teams functionality as part of the platform. So there is no go and get your PDF and that's all you get. This is the way that you view your information. So I think this is it's quite differentiated in market to what we've seen previously. So just wanted to call that out if the question comes through at some point.
Yeah. Two other quick pieces we'll point out, and then if there's more questions, I'm happy to answer those. But as you get more and more people in the platform, you're creating more and more teams, you can look at the analytics side of it and look at things across your organization, right? This one doesn't have a lot, but if I go to this organization and go to analytics, you can see in here that they've got quite a few members, right? And you can look at the motives at that cultural level, okay? You can look at the percentages or the quantities of people that we have in this account. You can also look at that strength distribution at the organizational level. You can create labels based upon business units or teams, and also sort your analytics in that manner. But this is really helpful, and it's been really impactful for some organizations that look at maybe it's their annual employee survey or the voice of the employee. One really good example here is that there was a organization we were working with a few years ago, and when they did the annual survey, the voice of the employee scores had dropped considerably from the prior couple of years. So that was an area where they felt like they needed to dig a little bit deeper. And so what was helpful for them is they looked at their conflict sequence, that first stage of the conflict sequence. It's a Fortune 50 company, a lot of smart engineers trying to solve problems really quickly. And when they compared that first stage of conflict, they had quite a bit higher score of assertiveness in that first stage. So again, smart people trying to solve problems really quickly, they realized that it was overshadowing the voice of their employees. So they had an initiative around best idea wins, right? And allow the leaders and managers to be a little bit more patient, to listen to other ideas, and dramatically over the next 12 months, that voice of the employee score skyrocketed that next year. So lots of ways that you can sort this data to look at trends, some cultural areas, and how your motives or your strengths or overdone strengths might be impacting those. So as Josh described, the compare, the teams, the analytics functionality is included in that first year. Also, we have integrations with Zoom, MS Teams, and Outlook. You can see Cassie and I have our results here in our window. But also in Outlook, if I were going to craft a message here to Cassie, right? And maybe there's a couple other colleagues here that I'm gonna reach out to in this message. Because I'm connected to them in our platform account, I've downloaded the app, okay? I can just click on the SDI logo here, and because I'm connected, it's going to provide me insights to adjust this email message, knowing what's important to Nancy here. Sample subject lines, effective styles, how to provide a compliment to her, how to avoid those triggers. And I can click through here and see that Cassie, what's important to her, what's important to Tim. And again, I can tailor my message here. So if I were writing to these three, I might say, hey, Nancy, pay attention to their first 3 bullet points. Tim and Cassie, you can read further for more details or pay attention to the attachment. So that relationship intelligence shows up in this flow of work to improve our meetings, messages, conversations. All right, other questions that have come up that I could help answer?
Well, here's a good one that I bet you have an answer for that's maybe better than mine, but I can hear many managers saying, I am not a workplace psychologist, so will I need an in-house expert to get the best from the SDI? Have we received that kind of reaction?
Yeah. What we find is that people really resonate with the SDI. It has a really, really high degree of face validity, like 99%. Meaning people, when they take it, they're like, that's me to a T, right? Not only is it me, but it's scary. How did it figure that out, right? So it's got a high degree of ownership, and then it's, I want my team to know this about me. So there's some simplicity and common language that comes with this. We do highly recommend getting people certified, bring in Josh or others on his team so that they can lead these interactive exercises and activities so that beyond understanding your results, answers the questions why others on my team do the things that they do. And what type of ownership can I take to strengthening those relationships? But from there, the simplicity of people, process, performance, red, blue, green shows up in the languaging. So it really becomes simple. They don't have to be experts, and they recognize that.
Max, on that front, we're working with a couple of organisations at the moment, large government agency as well, and they're getting a number of people just certified, whether it's in their HR team or OD team as well, who just it's a day or it's 2 4-hour sessions, similar to what you do with DISC or LSI, etc. And you come away being able to debrief this with employees, with staff, really confidently in that front. So. That's certainly something that I would encourage, and we'll put that in some information following this webinar as well.
Yeah.
How's that, Craig? Are we almost through? I'm just looking at time at the moment. Is there any other questions anyone's got while we've got Craig and Cassie? Right.
I had some more recruitment questions.
Oh, yes.
And then,
What was that, Cassie? Recruitment?
yeah, using it for recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some tools out there, Predictive Index and others that use it for hiring and recruiting. We don't recommend the SDI is used in that manner. We do have clients that will use it for early talent and onboarding, to help people understand their managers and their teams more quickly. But we don't recommend using it for that recruitment side of it.
I think that might be, is that a wrap up, Craig, from your perspective?
I'll turn it over to you, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just conscious of time. Look, folks, thank you so much, Craig and Cassie, for taking us through. Just so everyone's aware, everyone that's attended will get Phoebe to reach out to you. You'll get a free SDI assessment, so you'll be able to experience the platform yourself. Really encourage you to take the time, do the assessment in the right headspace, and really put the time into it. And from that, we'll also shoot out an email, which will have some resources as well that will just give you an understanding a little bit further to what we've added today in the webinar around the assessment and platform. So if there's interest there, in terms of knowing more, please reach out to myself or Jeff. We are doing certification likely at the end of September as well. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So yeah, we'll have that in the email as well. But hopefully this has given you a practical understanding of the assessment, how it can be applied in organizations. And yeah, just really a big thank you to Craig and Cassie for making the time.
Happy to do it.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely day. We'll be in contact following the webinar. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day.
See you, mate.